welcome to CareSmarts 360 on Air, a home care podcast. I'm Dennis Gill, a senior sales consultant at CareSmarts. Running a home care agency, that's not an easy feat. So, between managing staff, clients, and finances, it can feel like you are constantly putting out fires. But what if there is a system to help you streamline your operations and focus on what truly matters? So today we are excited to welcome Tom Bouwer to the podcast. With decades of experience building and scaling businesses, Tom has a deep understanding of the challenges faced specifically by the small business owners. So as a seasoned coach and author, he's helped countless firms achieve their goals. He will share valuable insights on why a simple business operating system is crucial for home care agencies. So get ready to learn how to increase efficiency, boost profitability, and create a happier and a more engaged team. So stay tuned for this informative and inspiring episode. Let's dive in. So welcome to the podcast, Tom.
Great. Thank you for having me today.
I know we are really glad that you could take out the time today to help our listeners, the new aspirants that are going to open up the new home care agencies or even that have their current businesses. So thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that from our team.
My pleasure. I've spent probably 20,000 hours now coaching
Oh,
executives and executive teams from really all around the world. I spent 8 years overseas and
okay.
started three of my own companies there. And everything that I'll talk about today, I use and have used to run my own company. So I've started, run, and sold six companies now.
Uh-huh.
And now my own little 3-person or 5-person company, I
Yeah.
use all of these same tools, and it just works because it's simple and easy. And I think that a lot of the challenges that your agencies or people looking to start an
Hmm.
agency face are there's it's so overwhelming. I talked to the one small business owner from your group the other day, and she said, I feel like I've got 100 hours of work to do every day, and I
Yeah.
still have a family, and I still have all these other things that I've got to do. Help. Have
Uh,
you heard that from people? Have you felt that way, Dennis?
yeah, definitely we do that. See, because I've been into the sales, I've been with this CareSmarts 360 for the past 5 years now, and presenting our software to them and having conversation with them daily on with 4 to 5 agencies minimal. I have that. So yes,
Yep.
I do get these questions a lot, but yeah, you are a more dedicated person on that part. So I'll just definitely leave
Well,
these that things
you,
on you.
you know, what a business operating system and all we've done, and I've written two books now. The first one is called Enjoy the Climb, which is about the Pinnacle Business Operating System. And the other book is called What the Heck is EOS, which is about the EOS, or the Entrepreneurial Operating System.
Okay.
And what both of those systems have done is they've taken the 105,000-page books and
Hmm.
all the research on business that's been done going back, to the 40s, 50s, 60s with W. Edwards Deming and Peter Drucker, and then some newer stuff from Lencioni and Jim Collins, et cetera, Simon Sinek, all these great thought leaders, and
Hmm.
have taken all of their concepts and boiled them down into simple, easy to use, practical tools. And they typically focus on just a couple of things. The first component or
Sorry.
element is typically people,
Uh-huh.
right? So, because honestly, without having the right people in the right seats, as Jim Collins would say,
Yeah.
nothing else is going to happen. And so one of the things that I've done now with several of the smaller agencies in the home care and hospice space
Hmm.
uh, has been to really help them define what their structure should look like.
Got it.
Looking 6 months or 3 months or 9 months down the road, and then from that, then evaluating, do we have the right people for the business? And it's just a simple tool that we use called the accountability chart. And then we use another tool from EOS called the People Analyzer. And that sounds really scary, but it's really not. And it's very simple.
Oh,
I'm a very simple person. Everything, my books are written at like a sixth grade level.
oh,
Just so you know how simple I am. They're easy reads, but they're very simple tools, and yet they have a very profound impact. And what I found in all of those organizations was we had 3 or 4 people doing sales. We had 3 or 4 people doing billing. We had 3 or 4 people looking at staffing. No one was in charge of recruiting. And
oh,
so when you have everyone doing everything and
yeah,
yet no one doing anything, then you have chaos.
yeah, that,
So it was all about, and it doesn't mean that you don't work together as a team, right?
yeah,
It's just that we need one set of eyeballs that we can look into to hold someone accountable for recruiting, for billing, for staffing, for any of those things, for compliance, let's say,
yeah,
um, for referrals, for admits or discharge, or whichever word you want to use. Someone has to own those things. Doesn't mean everyone else doesn't help. Everyone else does. But it's just like on any sports team, everyone has a position, and yet they still play together as a team.
yeah, got it.
So I found that to be of huge impact for my clients. Just simple organization. Did you have a question? Because I'm just rolling. So I
No, no,
hope
it's
that's
okay.
okay.
It's okay. I just want that our listeners should learn from you in this small session that we have today. They should be able to understand more and more things that could be there. Yeah, please go on, go on.
Okay. So the second big thing that most business operating systems focus on is your vision.
Uh-huh.
And try to boil that down to a 1 to 2 page document that we get everyone 100% aligned on,
Okay.
focused on the same things. And a lot of the tools that I use are to help create focus in the organization. Um, Usually, and I worked with a company the other day where there was 2 family members and 2 outside non-family members on the kind of leadership team, if you want to call it that. And by the way, some companies, when I start working with them, they don't really know who the leadership team is. So we
Oh,
have to define that.
that's
Um,
strange. Yeah, that's strange.
yeah, but it's true. It happens all the time. I mean, uh, and so, but of those 4 people, we had 5 different ideas of where the organization was going to go.
Uh-huh.
So we had to get everybody agreeing on the same long-term goal, then the
Got it.
same 3-year picture, the same 1-year goals, and then we break that down further into 90-day chunks that we call rocks. I'll get back to rocks in a second. But are we aligned on our core values? Do we know our overall marketing strategy? Um, and then, how do we go from our 3-year picture to our 1-year picture down to our 90-day chunks? And I like to tell the story. It's a personal story, but Wendy, my wife, and I,
Uh-huh.
um, when I first met her and I was using and starting to teach some of these tools, I said, "Hey, this is my 3-year picture." She's
Got it.
like, "There's no way you'll ever get any of that done. That's way too much stuff." And I
Okay.
said, "Wait, let's break it down into a 1-year goal. And then from that 1-year goal, let's break it down into 90-day chunks." And she said, "Oh, wait. So we have 12 90-day chunks to reach that 3-year picture?" And I said,
Oh,
"Yeah." She goes, "Oh, well, that's easy. We should add more." And I find the same thing with businesses where our 3-year picture may look really, really unattainable. But as we start to break it down and we get, traction, a cadence, a rhythm, a heartbeat in the organization, where each week we're just taking little bites of the elephant,
mm-hmm.
we start to gain that momentum. And we just start, all of a sudden, that elephant's done, and we go on to the next elephant and then the next one. And so by having an aligned vision, we get really crystal clear focus, along with everyone knowing their role in the organization, having all of the right people. and truly amazing things happen. And I mean, I know it sounds a little bit odd, but business actually becomes easy.
Easier.
It
So with
just
the
becomes
short-term
easy.
goals. So with the short-term
Yeah,
goals, it is much more easier.
right. And that brings me to the third area that most business operating systems will focus on.
Yeah.
And in Pinnacle, we'll call that the performance element or component.
Okay.
In EOS, they call it the traction component. But that's how do we have that actual weekly meeting cadence? How do we have a good scorecard so that we can see trends? Most of the small companies I work with don't have good weekly meetings, if they have weekly meetings at all,
Okay.
or even daily stand-up meetings. And they have awful scorecards. And it's not that they don't have data. They have lots of data, but they haven't taken that down to the 5 or 8 or 10 or 12 numbers that as a leader, they need to see every week to know, are we going up or are we going down? And where do I need to dig in more deeply?
Okay.
Now, I worked with, I've worked with a number of different organizations, but the biggest thing that prevents people from starting a simple scorecard is that they actually have too much data or they don't think that it's perfect. And
Oh,
so they're trying to create the perfect scorecard instead of just starting. And folks, I've got news for you. Your scorecard will never be perfect. They may not even be correct, but you're looking for trends. Are we getting better or are we getting worse? And here's the other thing is that the people you want working in your organization, they like accountability. They like a challenge. And accountable people like numbers because it takes the subjective, the anecdotal out of the decision-making process, out of issue solving, and boils it down to just really good facts. Hey, our productivity number for our staff right now is 53%. Productivity utilization, people use different words, but that's
yeah.
of the time, right, that people have, how productive are they being? Okay, well, 53% is not very good. And somebody says, "Oh, well, I really like Sally, and she does a really this, and so, and we get into all this anecdotal, and with numbers, you can bring it right back and say, guys, it's 53%. So what's the real issue? Is it how we're managing? Is it how we're setting appointments? Is it how we're staffing? Is it our sales? Is it our referral process? Is it our billing? There's something there that's not right when we're at 53%.
Definitely.
So that's kind of the third. And then the fourth area that we typically look at will be overall profit, right? Just how are we performing? And what I've seen with my clients is that typically we'll see revenue and profit grow by about 18 to 20% a year. And probably just as important, the owners or the leaders of the company feel like it's just easier, like they have their life back, like they actually know what's going on. They're not waking up at 3 in the morning grabbing a piece of paper and writing something down because they're thinking about it, and then they go in the next morning and they run around and talk to everybody about that one thing, but the next day it repeats itself and it's something else. Well, when you're doing that, your organization is getting pulled left, right, sideways, up, down. And instead, what we want to do is just simplify things so that they're easy to manage, so that you feel like you really have a handle or a grip on your business and know what you need to do. Not saying you don't make decisions and all of a sudden you do all this and voila, you've got a gazillion dollars in your bank account. It doesn't happen that way. You still have
Yeah.
to put in the effort and
Yeah,
the
to put
energy.
in the effort, yes.
Right. But it just becomes a lot easier and frankly, a lot more fun.
It's good to hear that. These pointers will definitely help our listeners that what changes they can make and what mistakes they have been committing. So yeah, definitely it must help. So
So
yeah, please, please,
yeah,
please.
go ahead.
No, no, please,
Okay.
please.
So
Go ahead.
if I were going to, you know, give people who are looking to start up a company or who have a small company right now, or even a large one for that matter, I'd say ask yourself a couple of questions.
Hmm.
Do you have the ideal structure where roles and responsibilities are identified and crystal clear? Not an org chart where people have titles. I'm talking about where you say this person is responsible for these 3, 4, or 5 key things that describe 80% of what they need to deliver on every day. I'd ask, do you have good weekly meetings? Do they tend to go on and on and on? Are you talking about the same problem that you were talking about a month ago or 3 months ago or 6 months ago? If you don't have a good structure set up with clear accountabilities and roles, if your meetings are going on and the issues, the problems keep coming back, if you don't have that rhythm or cadence, or if you just don't feel like you really have a grip on your organization, then you need to look at a business operating system, whether it be Pinnacle or EOS, because it will simplify your life and it will boil things down to the critical decisions you need to make. The third thing I'd look at would be, does the leadership team or do your executives, do you all have 90-day goals or objectives? And I mentioned that earlier, we call them rocks. And
Uh-huh.
so does everyone have something? And is it uh, specific and measurable? Do we know what done looks like in 90 days? Is it something like sign up 5 more referral partners? Okay, that's specific. I know what done looks like. That's a good 90-day rock. Is it help improve productivity? Well, that's an awful rock because what does help mean,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Got
you
it.
see people, well, this quarter, I'm really going to work on productivity, or I'm going to work on billing, or I'm going to work on this. Well, hey, that's nice. I'm glad you're working on it, but what are you actually going to get done? Like, what does done look like? And when you start to really focus the organization on those 90-day objectives, you will get a lot more done. Again, we go from 3-year picture, 1-year goals, 90-day rocks, and then the weekly meeting cadence to check in and to say, are you on track or off track with your 90-day objective? And when you're off track, great. What help do you need? Right? So that's kind of what I would suggest people take a look at.
Yeah. So, guys, as you are listening to Tom, 90-day, you can just make a note of that. 90-day, taking out small targets, creating for your teams. So, what Tom is suggesting, that would really help in starting a new business, or even if you have a business at this time and just expanding it to more newer heights. Right.
That's exactly right. And what I found is that I worked with a 14-person Pilates studio that had no leadership team,
Uh-huh.
and I've worked with a $3 billion bank.
Okay.
Um, and everyone in between, and they all need these tools. And these are people that, have PhDs from Harvard and Yale and wherever that are running these really large companies, but they still need to be brought back to the basics. And here's the thing, if any of you have ever played a sport, all teams have a coach.
Yeah.
Business is exactly the same. You need a coach to be able to see the playing field from the outside to simplify you. I mean, take LeBron James. He
Yep.
has a coach, right? Or you can take Messi. He has a
Yeah.
coach,
He is a coach. Yeah.
right? And what do those coaches do? They bring them back to the basics.
Yeah.
Bring them back to the basics all the time. And I think one of the questions that you wanted me to cover was, how long does this take?
Yep.
So, I'll typically start with a company and we'll do 3 days over the first 3 months. And that's to
Yeah.
build the foundation and the muscle memory. And then after that, we'll work every 90 days. And there's a science behind 90 days. So for those of you who are more scientifically, angled, after about 89 days, something happens in your brain and you just start going, oh, wow, a unicorn. Oh, there's a rabbit. Oh, a squirrel. Wow, I'm going to chase that squirrel. And
Yeah.
we completely lose focus. And so that's why we have this 90-day thing. But after the foundational tools, that's just the beginning. Okay. And then we start every 90 days to get together. Within a year, clients are going to have a really good foundation. So within 12 months. So basically, 5 or 6 meetings with me over the course of 12 months will get a really good start. Most of my clients are with me for anywhere from 2 to 5 years, but
Okay.
that's because we keep growing and adding more things in. But to get started, yeah, probably 6 meetings over a 12-month time frame. It's like most things, it's a time-based learning approach. I could do it all in a week, and you'd remember maybe 3% of it. So it's better to keep coming back and building on the foundation and going forward. And also, frankly, all of you have businesses to run.
Yeah.
So spending a whole week learning this, you know, here's the other thing I'd say. If you're thinking to yourself right now, wow, I don't have time to take 6 hours and spend it with Tom or someone like him, that's the exact reason you need this. If you can't take 6 hours to work on your business, that means you're too in your business in the weeds all the time. You can't take a deep breath, step back, and work on your business. And that's what we're doing in these sessions. Otherwise, you're in it all the time going crazy. So
Got it.
that would be my thought on that.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. And I think we did cover all most of the topics that we were to cover on the questions that we were about to share. So I hope this does help our listeners a lot, and they could take the pointers out of that, and obviously they can decide accordingly, and then they can consult the concerned person or consult with you and proceed
Yep.
further accordingly. Yeah. So
Yep.
just one thing before we wrap up. So how does this PBOS growth of the home care agency, how does it support the growth of the home care agency? So can it help with the expansion into new markets also?
Yes, absolutely. I've seen several agencies already expand into other markets or and sometimes add additional services.
Uh-huh.
So as right now, healthcare in general is changing so much and it's already complex and regulated enough that having a real crystal clear focus helps with where do we expand, what offices, what services, how do we recruit? And, that's been a really big thing with a lot of my agencies is how do we recruit the best people and retain them? So a lot of our time has been spent on what's our recruiting process? Who are we looking for?
Yeah.
What are they looking for? How do we keep them? um, as opposed to just, yeah, we found a body. Yeah, okay, now we have another body. It's how do we create a culture that's sticky that people want to work for? And so, absolutely, it's all of those things. And I think that there's two industries I haven't worked with. One is nuclear. So I've
Okay.
never worked with a nuclear company.
Okay.
And I've never worked with a lobbying firm.
Lobbying
But
firm.
outside of that, pretty much I've worked with every organization. And I can tell you that it comes back to these basic things, no matter what industry and you're in,
Hmm.
across the board. And I would like, if you're interested in learning more, you can either go to my website, which is thebouwergroup.com, and that's BOUWER group. My last name is a mix of Dutch and German and a few other things. Um, you can also email me, tom@tombauer.com. So Tom at TOMBOUWER.com. Or, if you want, just text me, 616-635-9900. That's my cell phone. Please do not abuse that and put it out on lists. But, introduce yourself and say, hey, I'm so-and-so, heard your podcast, would love to chat. Or, I give away a lot of my stuff for free because I believe that we need to help first before asking for anything in return. In fact, when I work with clients, my guarantee is this: I'll show up, I'll do my work with you, and if you don't think I added value, don't pay me. It's very simple, right? So there's not a lot of downside. I haven't had anyone not pay me yet, so I think I deliver on that promise.
I hope it remains the same. Yeah, it will. And it will as
So,
well. Yeah.
but it's if you need help with something, you read one of the books that I've written and you want a question, you have a question about something, shoot me an email and say, hey, I'd like to get 15 minutes of your time. I'm more than happy to do that. So to your listeners, please take me up on that.
Okay, so I hope everybody has taken down the details that was shared by Tom. And obviously, this podcast would be shared on our LinkedIn pages, Tom's LinkedIn pages. We will be sharing it. And you can, again, just comment on that also. If anything is required, any help is required, we'll be happy to assist you in having a conversation with Tom too, if anybody is interested in that. So
Great.
thank you, Tom, for sharing your expertise today. And to our lovely audience, thank you for tuning in. Until next time, I'm Dennis Gill, signing off. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.